Here we've discussed the privileging of the text, the fact that the printed and especially the published text has become such an important source of knowledge and information, or at least information for many people, and that the way that much of the Orient is represented is by this privileging of the text. This brings up, in my mind, one of the first issues that I want to discuss with you about the speech itself and about syllables. We have come to understand the alphabet, at least in English we say A, B, C, D, F, G, H. These are not just the notations for a sound, but these are representations of notations for a sound. Are you following me? That in discussions of speech in the West, in many of the Western books, they refer to syllables as letters. Look at the very famous book that addressed this around the turn of the 19th to 20th century, John Woodruff's The Garland of Letters. And throughout his text, he discusses letters. If you pick up almost any of the books translated into English or are written in English, and I'm sure it's the same in many other languages, they talk about letters, not syllables. In the Hermetic movement in Europe, I feel one of the weaknesses of the movement was their over-reliance on Kabbalah's reliance on letters rather than syllables. What I want you to understand is that there is a difference. When we talk about letters, it betrays our literary bias. We're talking about those notations that go down on parchment or on paper that are fitted into printing presses now, that are designed into fonts for computers and video screens. These are letters, and letters are notations. They are representations of syllables. So, what is the syllable that I'm talking about that is different from the letter? We can call them phonemes, but in India, in Indian tradition, they're usually referred to as akshars. Akshar, which is a negating prefix, and kshar, that which is destructible, that which is impermanent, that which you can break down. A syllable is that which you cannot break down. It is the basic element of articulation. You could say that speech, language, speaking is a sequence. We're sequencing sounds, we're sequencing articulations, we're sequencing syllables. The syllable is not a sequence. It's the only element of speech where that sequential element is not in play. Things are not laid out. It's only a single kind of utterance.
You see, the basic difference is really if you have A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and so on, that's like what we use as an alphabet. It's really a different ball game than to have the Sanskrit alphabet, which is arranged in an intelligent way. So Panini has the possibility to make one sound, I, and he can make a rule which goes for all the sounds which are happening between A, R, and E. And that allows him to be ultra short. But if you would have something in our alphabet which says ak, it could mean everything between A and K, but it wouldn't make any sense because between A and K you have just an arbitrary collection of vowels and consonants, and they have no logical arrangement at all. It's just something which evolved in time. And Sanskrit is something which is arranged intelligently.
In order to work with this is we have to understand density. That there is a difference in density that will affect how we think of a number of the vowels and consonants. And in order to understand the density, we have to look at the 5 elements. So I'm going to go quickly over the 5 elements that we use in Indian tradition, which are earth, water, fire, air, and space in that order. Now, I am not interested in you conceiving of real categories, but I would like you to think of this more with categories that aren't sharp, that sort of blend into each other. And we can think of the densities in terms of the greatest density being earth, the next density being water, the next being fire, the next being air, and the next being space. Can everybody see that? Does anybody have an issue with that? In other words, that we're not trying to imagine what is earth and what is water and what is fire, but rather we're making a distinction between these things in terms of density, compactness, as it were. That the most compact of the 5 elements is earth, and the least compact of the 5 elements is space. And we could also observe that that earth comes out of water, which comes out of fire, which comes out of wind, which comes out of air, which comes out of, which sits in the vessel of space. So that that space contains them all, and it goes up to the most dense, which is earth. Now, the next thing that is important to us in getting into syllables, I'm talking all about this because we want to be able to really sort of grip what these syllables are and how they're used, and especially how Panini uses them. So there are connections now with these 5 elements. In fact, it's the 5 elements in this sense, 5 elements in terms of densities, which determine the way that we perceive the entire world. We have 5 sense organs. We have a sense organ which perceives earth which is the nose, and that perception of earth is smell. We have a sense organ, the tongue, which perceives water, and that perception is taste. We have a sense organ, the eyes, which perceive fire, and that perception is light. And we have ears, which perceive space, and that perception is sound or hearing. So these are 5 densities which are going to, which gives us the sensory input for us to have our perceptions.